Woke up this little moon and my diamonds came in from Elliot. Pearls on that fucking bitch's neck, she so elegant. Shop about the fucking mall, so much made me a resident. This Maybach got 4 windows, 10, it don't feel like the president. How I'm coming, I'm just standing bitch.
Hello, welcome back to the Crooked Hour. Today we're going to be doing a how to bet both ways on Dominick Cruz, the Dominator, stupid nickname, versus Marlon Vera. Now this is a very interesting matchup for bantamweight. This person who wins this fight is probably one fight away from a title shot, or maybe they earn themselves that title shot depending on what happens within the division. I overall think this fight's going to be great, and I think there is a path to victory for both people, but straight off the bat I do think Marlon Vera is going to win this fight, but Dominator is not out. And yes, I am calling him Dominator for this video. So let's start off, like always, going over the tail of the tape. So Marlon Vera, 19-7-1, Dominick Cruz, 24-3-0. Average fight time for Marlon Vera, 11 minutes 55 seconds. Dominick Cruz, 16 minutes 49 seconds. So Dominick Cruz is almost always going that distance, you know. He's been in a lot of championship fights. He's gone over that 15 minutes, and so has Cheeto. But Cheeto's finishing his fights a lot earlier, but Dominick Cruz has been in a lot more main events than Vera has. They're both the same height at 5'8", and Marlon Vera will have a 2-inch reach advantage, which actually might be very useful for him in this matchup. It's only 2 inches, but the way I think this will play out, that might matter. Vera is the much younger fighter, 1992 compared to Dominick Cruz, 1985. Strikes landed per minute is higher for Marlon Vera, 4.33. For Dominick Cruz, it's 3.82. Striking accuracy is a lot higher for Marlon Vera, at 51% and 33% for Dominick Cruz. But that might be because the way Cruz fights, he's in, out, you know, attacking from different angles, attacking from different ways. Doesn't always land the shots, but when he does, they're good shots and they're clean shots and they add up on the scorecards. Strikes absorbed per minute, as you probably couldn't tell if you've seen either of their fights before, is lower for Dominick Cruz. Marlon Vera, 4.99 strikes absorbed per minute, while Dominick Cruz 2.56. And of course Dominick Cruz has the higher defense as well at 71%, while a 50% defense for Marlon Vera. And if you look in that front fight for Marlon Vera, you will see why. He takes a lot of shots to give one, but usually the shot he gives back is a lot more impactful than whatever his opponent's throwing. And I feel like that might be what happens here as well. Then we go to the grappling stats. Takedown average per 15 minutes, 0.73 for Marlon Vera and 2.88 for Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz might shoot, and I'm going to bring that up later in the video. Dominick Cruz might shoot this fight. I have a feeling we will see him shoot, but I doubt he gets a takedown. And I also doubt we will see Marlon Vera shoot in this fight. Takedown accuracy, very close, 42% for Marlon Vera, 43% for Dominick Cruz. So Dominick Cruz is trying for a lot more takedowns, but he isn't landing as many. Takedown defense, 68% for Marlon Vera, 83% for Dominick Cruz. So a decent takedown defense for Marlon Vera, and I think that might hold up against Dominick Cruz. Because Dominick Cruz is getting older, his knee surgeries, if you look at his last few fights, his takedowns haven't looked the greatest. He has shot and he hasn't landed many of them. And Cheeto Vera used to be known for his ground game. I don't see Cruz getting him to the ground, but he may. Submission average is 1.1 for Marlon Vera and 0.1 for Dominick Cruz, so don't expect Dominick Cruz to be going for a lot of submissions. But if it hits the ground and Vera's on his back, or if it hits the ground and Vera's on top, don't be surprised if you see him chasing submissions, although as of late he's been chasing those ground and pounds a lot more often. Now in this fight, as I said before, I do like Cheeto Vera to win this fight, but he is a pretty big favourite, and it's a risky play for what the odds are at. You got Marlon Vera at 1.41 and Dominick Cruz at 2.83, and that's a hard money line for Vera to lay down because, yeah, he might win, but what if he doesn't, you know? What if he doesn't and you've laid all that money down for nothing? I'll probably give this fight probably 70-30. if I just had to say at the top of my head, I feel like this is a good matchup for Vera. 70-30, 30 to Cruz, 70 to Vera, for Vera to get this done. But if you're a Vera fan like me, you like the guy's style, you like what he's been doing as of recent, and you want to know what to put down, honestly, just to play it safe, I would just put him in a parlay. Just put him in a 2-leg parlay, a 3-leg parlay, even if you're feeling risky. But man, I could see Marlon Vera doing all three things. I could see him getting a finish. I could see him getting a submission. And I could see it going to a decision. The submission part's not probably going to happen for Vera, but I'll get to that in a minute. If you were to play Marlon Vera, I'd probably put him in a parlay, juice it up a bit, make it a bit more worth your buck. Maybe put him in there with another favourite on the card that you're pretty confident with, just to add that extra bit of steam to it. But if you really want to, you can play his money line. I played his money line, but it was more of an emotional bet than a strategic bet. If we're betting strategically, I would probably not take his money line and parlay it. Now, if you're feeling extra risky, which is what I did, I only put a tiny bit on it. Marlon Vera by submission is paying 10.0. So if you think that Marlon Cheeto Vera might get this done by a submission, chuck that down. And listen, I'm not trying to entice you in anything here. I'm not trying to tell you this is a good pick, because trust me, it isn't. But Marlon Vera has 8 submission wins, and his last submission was all the way back in 2019 against Hernandez. But it's still a possibility, especially if Marlon Vera, just imagine this, right? 4th round, Dominick Cruz wins the first 2, Marlon Vera wins the 3rd, starts taking over, starts hurting Cruz, maybe hurts Cruz that round, but Cruz doesn't drop in the 3rd. They go into the 4th, Cheeto hurts Cruz badly, Cruz dives for a takedown, but his takedowns have been a bit shitty lately. I'm just going to say how it is, they've been a bit shitty lately. He goes for the takedown, Marlon Vera wraps up a submission, gets the tap, and wins. I mean, just imagine it. Just imagine it. And then you are a lot more richer. And if you like the sound of that, if you do like the sound of that, I mean, only put a little bit. Look, I don't want to be responsible for anybody losing any money. Bet at your own risk. But if you do, if you are going to put a little bit on that, make sure it's only a little bit. But probably not a smart play. Just parlay him if you believe in Marlon Vera, honestly. Next up, we have Dominick Cruz, the Dominator. I don't feel like he's going to be dominating much in this fight, besides maybe the pace and maybe the striking output, and maybe outpointing Cruz if he does do anything in this fight. And basically, that's why I feel like the only logical bet if you're betting Cruz in this fight is by points or his money line. I mean, you're getting a bit of extra out of his decision prop. His money line's 2.93, while by points is 3.80. So you're getting probably an extra 1 out of that. So, I mean, if you know something that I don't, you think, Dominick Cruz is going to get his 2nd ever submission or his 8th ever TKO KO against a person who's never been TKO'd in their life and looking the strongest they've ever looked in their prime, then go for it. But I feel like the smartest decision here is decision at 3.80, and honestly, that isn't a bad bet. If you want to take Dominick Cruz, I would cash in on that ASAP. Now, if you want to play something else, not sure who you want to play in this fight, you're like, oh, I don't really want to play Marlon Vera because I like Dominick Cruz, but I don't want to play Dominick Cruz because he might lose, or vice versa, then you can just play the over 2.5 if that's on your book. My book doesn't have it. I've only got over 4.5, which is a risky play because I could see Marlon Vera closing it out in the 4th. But if your book has 2.5, over 2.5, parlay that up with something else, and that will probably hit more than likely. But yeah, that's what I think for this matchup. If you're on Vera in a parlay, or you could maybe just lay down his money line, but I'd put him in a parlay. If you go on Dominick Cruz by decision, it's the only thing to play in my opinion. And if you're not playing on either of them, over 2.5 rounds should hit in a parlay. Let's get this money. Hope you enjoy the main event. Don't forget to watch my other How to Bet Both Ways about GM3 versus Bruno Silva. It should be a good one. And yeah, enjoy the fights this weekend. My betting pick show should be up tomorrow if you're interested in that. And yeah, as always, have a good one.